Well, we're back with another Land Rover video. Well, this is more of a general vehicle PSA. We're going away for a while, and I'm always astounded at the number of people that either don't know how or just don't do basic checks on their vehicle. So we're in here, we're going to have a general inspect. We're going to check our oil and our fluids and everything like that. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to pull our dipstick for our oil, which in this Isuzu 4BD1T engine is a bit of a long one. So you'll see here we've got a couple of holes in here. Your oil should be somewhere between these two, ideally sitting on the top of that. Generally this is the hot mark, that's the cold mark, but I like to have it towards the top because these things can eat a little bit of oil at times. So once I've cleaned our dipstick off, sit it in for a couple of seconds, pull it out and we have a look. And there we go, we're sitting just below that top mark, so we're doing well. It's diesel oil, so it goes black very quickly. If this is a petrol engine, you'd be looking at changing your oil if it was that color. This is about 20 hours off needing another oil change, and we do this by hours. We do about every 100 hours in this, as opposed to kilometers, because it can be deceptive with a vehicle that idles so much. Another often overlooked thing is the washer bottle, and we can see we've got washer bottle or washer water to about there. This is about 6 liters in there, and there is a crack in the top of the tank, so it will leak to that level even if I fill it up. That is something I will be fixing on the road. Now in this we don't have a radiator cap per se, but we have a header tank, and we can check to see that there is fluid in the header tank at a normal level, which it's down below the normal level here. We'll add some in. I'm going to make sure that there is something in there with a rag. Have a bit of a dip here. I think that this might be quite dry, but it is also very cold. So this is an expansion tank. We may need to crack the top. Oh, there is some fluid in there, good. So there is enough fluid to be below the pickup of this. So that means we've probably got fluid in the top of the radiator hose, but we'll show you a little trick we can do with that too. Now this here is the top radiator hose. This is pretty much the highest point of the engine where you would bleed things off. There is a complication in here in that the heater core here goes all the way up to the back of the vehicle to a rear heater as well, and also to the front heater core. Here, if we squeeze this and we hear bubbles coming out of there, that's a problem. That means we've got air in this hose and we need to top it up here. If it's just squishing fluid in and out of there, that's a good sign. It means it's probably full. This is not by any means a definitive check, but it's a quick and easy one to do on the side of the road. The thing we're going to do here, we're going to check our fuel filter for signs of leaking or incorrectly seated seals. Looking at the banjo bolts up here, making sure nothing's leaking. We're going to look down here through this little gap to that little cap there. That, if I can zoom in, is the lift pump. So if you run out of diesel on the side of the road, that little thing down there is the thing you're going to have to unscrew and pump with either one of the injectors or the top of the fuel pump cracked to get fuel flowing again. So good to check that that's in good condition. I have a voltmeter built in the dash, but we're going to check the hydrometer, which is just a hydrometer in one of the cells. That suggests the battery is okay. That's a good sign. This particular variant, being so heavy, has power steering. So we're going to check our power steering fluid in the wind. Now, yes, we are between the high and low marks there. That's good, and we have some spare power steering fluid on board. Although we do know there is a slight weep in the lines down there. We'll check that out. Over to the brake fluid. We need 2 hands for this. Yes, we have brake fluid, and it has not changed since the last fluid top up that we did when we changed all the brake lines and the brake booster and the brake master and everything. This was a new shiny brake master about probably a month or 2 ago, and now it looks rusty. Now we have clutch fluid in there. Let's see if we can get that cap off. Now there will be times, like right now, when you can't get caps off things. Sometimes a rag gives you just that extra little bit of grip and leverage that you need to get it off. Sadly, not the case with this one. Now, the problem with some of these places is you often can't get a tool into them. But better doing this in a controlled situation than on the side of the road. There we go, we've got that loose. Now we can take the lid off. Alright, now you check that there is a seal under here too. That can go missing and that these vents aren't blocked. We can zoom in and tilt up and we can probably almost see, yes, we have fluid up to about the correct level, so that's a good sign. Now I could get in here and take the intake off and check for diagonal wobble on the impeller for the turbo, as the good old Rover Shed Services Mr. Dave Fair educated me about. I'm not going to do that too much work. Now these air filter solutions, you will notice that there is this little interesting little knob here. This is a pressure sensor. In the manuals for these they say don't change your air filter until this pops up and shows a red ring there. So that will pop when the vacuum gets too great, signifying that the air filter is blocked. So we've got a spare outer filter with us, we probably won't need the inner. So either case, we should be right. So I think for the most part we're doing pretty well. Now it's worth noting that basic checks are not all about engines, and it is a windy day. So do a walk around your vehicle, just have a general look at things, see if anything seems out of whack. Like something I did this morning, this is smearing oil everywhere. You can see here, that cheap Britpart branded hubcap is not doing the job, and I've had to put a hose clamp on it temporarily until I can find a proper genuine one. I've had a look at the hitch on these. There are grease nipples on everything, so we have greased up all the grease nipples on this, on the hitch. Had a look around, we've made sure all our trailer lights work. There is a trailer plug under there that feeds all the high level lights here. That is a bit loose, we're going to fix that in a minute. We've done all our trailer wheel bearings, we've had a look at our wheel nuts. We've made sure we have our spare toolbox on board. So we should be able to help ourselves without causing too much of a problem for everybody else. Anyway, let's get cracking. Alright, so one last thing, if you happen to be going somewhere where you might get stuck, firstly try not to get stuck unless that's your hobby, but if you do, make sure your recovery gear is in good nick. This stuff could use a bit of a paint up and a bit of a check up, but I've been in the roof box and checked all my recovery gear as well. We've made sure that the cable on the winch is oiled. This is a PTO winch, so we've made sure it's greased and oiled up, because it does need oil in there, and that the breather still works. So we've tested all of that. So I think this concludes this basic little video, and I hope there's some wisdom in here for you. And some of those who have done this many times will probably contribute some more useful things in the comments. So we'll see you later, and hopefully we'll talk on our return.